we're going to do a hurling midterm report. Not really sure how we're even going to do this. What way had you imagined it?
I don't know if the grades are still the same in school. I'm fairly sure they're not, but it would be A+, A minus, and whatever the whole way down. So that's A+ is the best. A is solid in the middle. A minus
What's
is
the criteria
leaning towards a B. I suppose, like, what have we learned much so far? What sort of position do we think they're going to be in come championship? That would be kind of the criteria so far. Yeah, I'd say a lot of it would be, what have we learned about them? Do we know much more than we did before the start of the season? Have they carried 2022 form into 2023? Have they gotten rid of maybe a hangover that was there in 2022? I'm thinking of Clare, various things like that. How is Derek Ling bedded in?
Okay.
That type of thing.
Okay, so go ahead, start off. What's the first county you want to talk about?
We might as well start at the top of Division 1, Group A. So Cork are unbeaten so far. They're 6 points so far. I'm not sure, have we learned that much about them? I'm not sure. So I don't know if I'd have them in the A category. Do we know any more about Cork than we knew last year? They've obviously won the Munster
your
League.
Decky Daltons is playing out more in the half-forward line, and I think that's worked well so far, so that's been a positive. What's that wing forward? He's fast. I'll have to look it up there, but go ahead and give me your thoughts.
Is it Toomey that was playing with Joel that you're thinking of?
No. But he looks a serious unit. No, this lad's smaller and faster. Well, he's not too... is it Roach, maybe? Brian Roach?
Yeah, Brian Roach, yeah.
Yeah, he's impressed me as well.
Owen Downey's obviously come in at number 3. It looks like they're set with Owen Downey at 3, Kieran Joyce at 6. Hoggy, I suppose, is showing maybe more form than he did maybe more. Well, what am I basing that on, really? Actually, I'm only basing that on the Limerick game, maybe. So you can't really say that as confidently. I'd probably give Cork something like a B+. The big questions haven't really been asked yet. Probably they didn't blow Westmeath away, maybe like other teams have. But seeing a couple of new things, seeing Brian Hayes, and potential for him to be a big player come summer. Declan Dalton looks a bit different. Looks a bit different this year and is playing a different type of role. And I suppose whether the 3 and 6 is going to cut it come summer and long term, that still remains to be seen. Particularly maybe in Downey's respect, because he's only kind of a new player on the block. So I'd probably a B+ for me.
Have they still got that soft centre as Talamanji? Yeah, no one goes in harder on Cork than you.
Well, we don't really, like, when are we gonna find that out? Really, it hasn't probably reared its head yet.
Well, come on, predict it. You were well able to predict back in 2020 that Cork would not win a Winter All-Ireland.
Sure, wasn't I right?
Yeah, so come on, are Cork going to have that? Are they going to be too windy again, according to you?
Oh Jesus, you're putting, that's talk about trying to put words into someone's mouth. But I don't think the question is whether Cork are too windy or not. I think the question is what grade have they got so far in the season so far.
I don't know if we can grade him on this, but Robbie O'Flynn's after picking up an injury. Hopefully that dislocated ankle won't be too long. Alan Connolly struggling with injury, Mark Coleman is, and there's one other, Jarrett Fitzgibbon. So we obviously can't judge Pat Ryan on that. So what they've done so far, I think you can't but give them a B+. Tommy O'Connell's coming in, getting more game time. Kieran Joyce, he's settling into it that bit more, like we've already said. Brian Roach, the likes of Declan Dalton. So yeah, B+.
Adrian McGrath's taking a right pop off me there, but I'm not sure why exactly. What's it to do with Tip? Like, how many times are you going to agree to St. wallowing in Tip's few wins this year? But we haven't talked about Tip yet. I'm not sure what he's on about. Yeah, but I'd give Cork a B+ at this moment in time. But the questions that some of the lads have asked there are still yet to be answered. And I suppose a couple of things. They looked in trouble against Galway and kind of turned things around fairly well. Looked in trouble against Limerick and turned things around well too. So I think B+ is fair. Limerick.
Yeah. Pure Hatchet says, Limerick surely A+, cruising with a relatively new team. Scary prospect. Well, like, is having a deep panel and kind of using that, is that the same as performing really, really well? I mean, I don't know. How did you think they went against Galway? Like, they dominated a lot of the game and Galway came back into it, I suppose, late on. But were you that blown away by them?
I wouldn't have been blown away. Cian Lynch looks like he's getting back to himself, which would bring them up, like whatever grade you thought they were last year, you'd imagine it would bring them up a couple, partially bring them up a couple of grades anyway. Peter Casey looks like he's kind of back on track as well. Declan Hannon's obviously carrying a bit of a knock. He'll be back pretty soon. Mike Casey hasn't played any league action yet and might struggle to play a league or might get the tail end of the league. Obviously, there hasn't been any sign of Aaron Gillan yet. Like, if they're going into a championship potentially without Aaron Gillan, that's, that definitely would take away from them a bit. He's their most focal attacker, you'd say, and a lot of their game plan is built around him. Then on the flip side of that, Shane O'Brien has come in and been good. Dunico Dollig has come in and been good. Obviously, Micheál Houlihan as well. You'd wonder, those guys are going to see championship action, but they're not, like, I don't know if they're going to start championship games. So I'd probably have Limerick probably give Limerick an A. I wouldn't give them an A plus. They did obviously lose a league game and lost the lead to Cork in that first league game. So I'd probably give them an A, but there's still A minus, but there's probably still questions that are going to have to be answered over the next while.
Are they relying heavily though? Like, fair enough, they're bringing in new young players and some of them are doing quite well, but are they still fairly reliant on some of the older heads, like, Declan Hannon, Dan Morrissey, Tom Morrissey? Not that they're old players per se, but lads who have a lot of miles on the clock, who have been there and done that. Like, it's okay, Adam English comes in, he does some classy things, and you can see some of the other young lads. Kieran Barry did fine the last day as well. But like, if they were like, it's not like the new lads have come in and taken over the team and made it their team. It's still the older lads' team at this stage. So it's not like they've a relatively new team realistically.
Is that a negative? But I understand.
No, it's not negative. But it's just that whole point earlier on about, like, with a fairly new team, like when it comes to championship, it's going to be the 15 that we're used to.
Well, I think I saw a graphic there recently from the 2018 final to last year's final. The only changes were, am I right in saying the only changes are Richie English and Cian Lynch, and one of them is because of an injury. So they would have started 14 of the players that started in the 2018 final. Do you know what I mean? Like, so, like, it is the same personnel. I think you can lose the run of yourself with new fellas coming in. Like, how much action are they actually going to see realistically? Do you know what I mean? They'll see a bit. They'll see a bit, but they won't see that much. I think maybe an A minus is fair enough for Limerick.
Yeah, John Collins is coming back to Cork, I presume. B plus is fair. They're having a go, but form now won't mean much in the championship. It looks like they're looking to win some silver, though. A league for a new manager will buy him time. Pure Hatchet says, lads, who is number 2 behind Limerick right now? No way is it Kilkenny at this point. We did our hurling power rankings recently, and you can watch the video there. Go to ourgame.ie. There's plenty of stuff on it there. If Tipperary were going shite, should there be no reviews of anything, Verney, says Adrian McGrath.
No, I actually remember doing a review of the managers a couple of years ago, and Tippett had a bad year, and Liam Sheedy got a pretty low grade. So I challenged. And
Matthew Kenny got an average one as well.
Yeah, I challenged that point. Where are you sitting on Limerick grade wise?
Like, they've done pretty well. Okay, fair enough. Cork turned around that first result, but I don't think you can not give them a B. Like, they were very impressive for long spells against Cork. Then they probably emptied the bench and took out some of the experienced players, and they've been very good in the other 2 games. B plus.
Yeah, I'd go A minus. I'd go A minus. So A minus, B plus is only 5% between them. 5 points in the CEO could be the difference between getting a course and not getting one.
Now you have it, yeah. But sure, look, you probably would have got a scholarship anyway if you were hurling.
Yeah. Have you ever seen me play hurling?
I've seen you tag a jersey.
There was no scholarship going my way, I can tell you that. Funny one actually. Back in the day, there was a bit of a Beano at the time. I was in college and the GPA grants came in for the first time, and there was also a grant going. There was something going for college students that were playing inter-county or something at the time or whatever. But it was a grand anyway, and I literally remember booking Vegas with one of the boys, like literally that night. I tell you, that was well invested.
You're an absolute disgrace. Right,
I was having an off season. I was investing in R&R.
Yeah, sure you are. Clare then, so far, their results are they beat Westmeath 427 to 14 points. They lost to Limerick, were fairly well paddled down at the Gaelic grounds and got some scores toward the end to take the bad look off it. That was 127 to 218. And then they gave Wexford, the mother and father of Baton's, last week, 625 to 118. So they've got Cork at home and Galway at home next. But overall, are we gonna dwell mostly on the fact that they got paddled by Limerick, or say, geez, they went and absolutely terrorised Wexford?
Yeah, I suppose you have to take into account that there was no Tony Kelly, there was no John Conlon, there was no Ryan Taylor. There's been no Shane O'Donnell yet, and I don't think he'll play. I don't think he'll play any league. He's fit and all by all accounts, but I don't think he's going to play any league. And obviously that coincided with the Limerick result. When they were all back, they looked a completely different prospect, albeit against a Wexford side who are probably struggling at the moment. Yeah. What are we talking? Low B, high C for Clare?
Yeah, I think, I'd say a B minus.
Yeah, I'll go with that. John Condon has shown he's back fit and ready to go. Tony Kelly has shown that as well. Ryan Taylor has shown that. I suppose last year as well, Clare wanted to make a statement towards the tail end of the league last year, and they did that against Clare, or against Limerick, and they were struggling up until that point. I think of all the managers, Lohan doesn't place too much stock on the league and just wants to kind of build the depth of his squad or whatever. The likes of Adam Hogan has come in, Eamon Foodie's been good in goal as well. I'd give him probably a B minus.
Well, Aidan McCarthy coming back and being the top scorer in the league so far. Mark Rogers looks like he's ready to kick on to another level. O'Donnell or Shane O'Brien will start for Limerick this summer, says Talaman GA. Not sure about that. I think Shane O'Brien looks excellent. Donegal O'Donnell's just in. He's made a decent impression as well, but still can't see them pushing their way in.
O'Donnell hasn't started a match for Limerick yet.
No.
He's come on in the last 15 or 20 minutes of every game. Shane O'Brien is the more likely of the two, if Aaron Gillane isn't involved.
Yeah, and like Cathal O'Neill has to come into the conversation at some stage too, but that might mean somebody's position has changed. So I suppose Shane O'Brien is the more likely of that. Cathal picking the bigger men won't be pushed around this year, says Porter. Okay, next team that we're going to talk about then is, who was the next team? Galway. Right, so 1 win from 3 games. Can't say we've been blown away, have we?
No, I definitely haven't been.
They beat Wexford the first day out 23-15. Then they conceded 4-24 to Cork. And then the last day out, decent performance, but they lost 24-19 to Limerick, and they were second best.
Yeah, the Wexford result probably has to be kind of tempered by the fact that their form has been really poor as well. Tempered is my word of the day today. Like Joey and Friends, it's the word of the day, toilet paper. Stop being so pedantic. I definitely haven't been blown away by Galway. I think you're looking at somewhere in the C category here, and it's probably down the lower end of the C category as well, I would say. The Thomas's players are coming back involved now. Conor Cooley was probably good enough the last day. No sign of Fintan Burke yet. David Burke was on the bench the last day. Like, have a load of new players put their hands up to you and said, yeah, pick me come summer?
If the idea of the league is to get a load of new players, or to try and get a few players, or bring on a few players that you thought were quite promising, yeah, it's very hard to make a case for Galway beyond the C- at the moment.
Who's going to be centre back?
Gerard McInerney probably, even though he's been used as fullback so far.
Yeah, Joe
Cooney might come in the mix, but he obviously is going to need to play a lot more games.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'd probably have Galway as a C- now. I haven't been that impressed with them so far. No, I have to say. And I thought they were one of the teams. And admit they probably will at this stage, but they probably will kick on and maybe have a good summer. But just kind of based on what we've seen so far, it's all grand saying they'll come good whenever. But I'd say probably C- is fair.
Wexford then, probably a D.
Yeah, it's probably somewhere in the D category. Like, they conceded 4-17 in a half to Clare. Like, that is bad. It was tight enough against Westmeath, albeit they won by, I think, 8 in the wind-up. Lee Chin has played very little. Liam Ryan hasn't played since the Galway game. No sign of Matt O'Hanlon yet. Paddy
Conceding
Foley's not going to be around.
625 is
Yeah.
like it. You know, irrespective of what team you put out, 625, and nobody's writing them off or whatever. Like they got paddled last year in the league semi-final, and then they went down to Nolan Park and they won in the championship, which was huge. They can come back for it, but like it'd have to be a D so far.
Yeah. It's not a D plus either. It's a
No, we don't give them out too handy at all.
No, it's probably a D or a D minus, realistically, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'd say it's,
okay.
I'd say
we'll
it's
stick with a flat D.
Yeah, flat D maybe.
You're pushing for D minus.
No, flat D maybe to take into account the players that they're missing, maybe. And in fairness, at least Charlie McGuckin has kind of been a rare bright spot for them.
Oh, he's looking excellent, yeah.
And Shane Reck is fit, which he struggled to be last year, and he's been decent in a defence that's been poor. Yeah, D is okay with me.
Yeah, Adrian McGrath says the most important performance in the Gaelic grounds could turn out to be Aidan McCarthy before the season is out. Yeah, he was brilliant that day down there. The next team then is Westmeath. 3 defeats from 3, minus 42 scoring difference. So that's an average of a 14-point loss per game. I'll be honest, I haven't seen them in the flesh this year, not since the Walsh Cup.
Same.
Very hard to make a huge judgment on this, but I mean, it's a really tall order for them to be in this division, considering you would expect them to be behind the 8 ball really here with the level of competition in that particular league. But yeah, I'm just trying to think, what do we really know? Sure, being that the likes of Killian Doyle is obviously excellent. Niall Mitchell.
Beaten by 6 by Cork in Páirc Uí Chaoimh the last day. You know, and I think went down 9 early stages of the second half, and they're thinking Cork were going to run away with this, and they didn't. And they were very competitive against Wexford in Cusack Park the day before that. They took a fair beat in the first day to Clare. I think it was 4-24 or 4-27 they could have shipped. But the last 2 games have been somewhat promising. And I've been smart. Those 2 games are, and particularly the Cork game, is probably more competitive than I would have predicted. So it's all about like what were their expectations coming in. I'd probably have I'd probably C minus / D plus, I'd say, yeah, because like that minus 42. Just thinking 13, 25 of that is Clare. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's beaten 17 points by Cork and Wexford. You know, 6 points by Cork in the last game. I'd probably give him C plus C minus / D plus in around there.
Yeah, okay, let's go with C minus there. That's not too bad all told. Tipperary then, we've come to the to the main course. Tipperary. Will I get my A ready?
There definitely won't be an A here anyway, I can tell you that. What have they beaten?
Kilkenny, your lads.
Yeah, but you don't rate Kilkenny. Let's call a spade a spade.
Up by 12 points at half time. No big deal.
But that's not the question I asked you.
But, bet Dublin in Croke Park.
I love the way, like, when you go back to talk about your own, it's not like using proper like English language. It's just bet Kilkenny, bet Dublin.
Give Laois lots of it.
Yeah, I wouldn't read very little into the first game against Laois. I'd read a bit into the Kilkenny game, obviously, and they should be beating Dublin with the players Dublin are missing. So I'd be in B territory for Tipperary. Okay,
so we have all the players who are out injured. You have your Ger Browns, you have your Barry Heffernans, your Craig Morgans,
your Cottle Barretts, your Niall O'Mara's.
Yeah, who else can we pluralise here? Grodogo Grakon says tip fail.
There you go.
So far, to get the very consistent run of results, yes, it's not the harder sided league, of course. Waterford up next, that'll tell a little tale or two. But considering the players and how revitalised the team has looked this year in the league compared to last year, you'd have to say the management team have really grabbed these players and turned it around, and there's a new style of play. So it has to be a B anyway.
A good solid B, I'd say. If they were doing what they'd done in Group 1A, it'd probably be a B plus. But a good solid B, I'd say.
Would you agree with Patrick Coleman that Tip have done nothing wrong so far?
Yeah, they haven't done much wrong so far, to be fair. What I liked against Laois when I was at that game is that the game was there to be won by 20 points, and it was won by 20 points, and they kept the foot to the throat. They kept the foot down in Kilkenny as well. Probably it was like a ropey enough game against Dublin at stages the last day, but they got through it. Yeah, I think a B is very, very fair.
Richard Hogan says, build them up and watch them fall. Laughy faces. River Power says, don't say turned around before championship. And Catnap says, tip, A plus, beta Kilkenny minus Ballyhale boys and the Hurling Powers Dublin and Laois. Unreal stuff. So with a name Catnap, you can be pretty sure where that contributor is from. But so we're going on a B, yeah?
B, yeah, happy with a B, yeah. Surprised
Okay,
they didn't push for a more now, to be honest with
no, hey, look, I'm keeping down expectations. Waterford then. And like obviously this is Davy Fitz back in Waterford, but like 5 points so far from their 3 games, 2 wins and a draw, and the draw when they had 13 men was highly impressive. You know, you'd have to give them that. That's pretty good going there. The first, and then also they beat Laois, but weren't that impressive. They pulled away late on.
Lost and the man obviously early that day as well. After about 6 minutes, I think Michael Kiley was sent off.
Yeah, and then most recently they beat Antrim 122 to 17 points. So that was an 8-point win there. Probably a couple of changes, but yeah, like I don't think you can argue too much with it. I think they've done pretty well, despite not blowing me away for long spells against Laois, 14 men or not. You know, you don't have to capitulate when you have 14 men, as we've talked about before. So I'd be looking at a B for Waterford as well. Again, not the harder side of the league, but you know, I'd be saying, yeah, B.
I wouldn't. I'd be looking in the C territory.
Right.
Don't they haven't. You could, you say maybe Tip haven't done anything wrong. Tip have, caused you to sit up a bit. Waterford, I don't know. I wouldn't be that impressed with what I've seen.
Well, a lot of that is because of what they did with 13 men.
Yeah. I wouldn't have been impressed against Laois, albeit with 14 men, and I wouldn't have been. Plus, they've had 3 sending offs in the league, which isn't exactly ideal as well. I'd be looking down probably about C/C plus, something like that. Do we know anything about Waterford? Like in the sense of, like it looks. Well,
you've got your Pat Fitzgeralds, your Padraig Fitzgeralds, your Ruben Hallerns.
It looks like they're going to play the Wexford style, doesn't it? It looks like they're going to play that probably 2 inside. They're going to probably have an extra defender as well. I don't know. I'd be giving them a C. I haven't seen anything that was, they haven't raised any trees or anything yet. That's
the most damning C I've ever seen.
Yeah, well, I'd be straight with you. On what I've seen so far, they're not getting out of Munster, and I thought they were.
Right. So, Richard Hogan says discipline issues with Waterford playing with 14-13 is not good enough. Okay, so the next team up is your lads.
What are you giving them?
C.
C. Straight C.
Flat C, yeah. Yeah, flat C.
Okay. Jeez, fair play to you. You're gone from a B to a C. Fair play.
I listen to you. Look, I'm not like you. I'm just not entrenched in opinions. If I hear some compelling evidence, I'd say fair enough.
Give me an opinion I'm entrenched in.
Kilkenny being the greatest county of all time.
It's not the greatest county of all time. How could it be the greatest county of all time when they only play one code?
Anyway, moving on. Kilkenny, how are you rating them so far, your lads?
They're down in the C category as well, I'd have to say. Do we know much more about it? Do we know anything? Do we know much more about them?
Fair enough. They haven't had the Ballyhale lads throughout. They're starting to come back. But they beat Antrim by 6 the first day out, 118-15. Then got paddled by Tipperary, albeit made a decent fist of it in the second half. And then most recently put up 34 points to Laois's 118. So that's what we know about them so far. You were at least one of those games, weren't you?
I was not. No, I was at the Walsh Cup game against Offaly at the start of the year. Like outside of Billy Drennan, is there any other guys that really put their hands up? Just real kind of new faces. Not really.
Not overly.
I think Dara Corcoran obviously is a fair chance to start and come championship.
He's not a new face though, I suppose.
Yeah, but he's not relatively. He hasn't. I don't know if he started a championship
Paul
game.
Cody's been okay.
Yeah, all right, yeah. It's hard, kind of. They haven't been that visible, really. And Derek Ling is, well, he's been visible enough. That Tipperary performance was, wasn't hectic. There's no point in saying any different. Probably give him a C minus, to be honest, if I'm honest. Like, did they
That's a
deserve
generous
anything
C
more?
minus. That's generous now.
Would you? Have they been that bad that you throw them into the D category?
Well, it's just the manner of the performance against Tip, albeit a league game, that wasn't great. And then, like, I know Antrim gave him trouble last year as well, but that's a home game to win it. Or was it a home game actually? I can't remember.
That was up in Corrigan Park.
I was up in Corrigan Park. So probably not the greatest performance there. And then the last day out, they were very good against Laois. C minus?
I think C minus, yeah. The problem is with Kilkenny, and why you're not able to get a read on them as well, is because they're missing obviously two of the reads, and they're missing a heap of Ballyhale lads. Like, no team relies more on a club than Kilkenny do on Ballyhale, realistically. Well, that's not to say. Obviously, Sligo rely more on Eastkeigh than, or whatever, some of the weaker counties maybe, but no top tier county relies more on a club than Kilkenny do on Ballyhale, and we've seen very little of those lads so far. So I think you can only judge on what you've seen. So I think C minus is fair.
Okay, Dublin then. Huge player turnover over the winter. Rush, Crummy, Keane O'Callaghan, Reen McBride isn't there.
Mark
There's
Schutte.
a lot of players. Mark Schutte, yeah, he's so it's been very difficult for Micheál Donoghue, but they've been pretty competitive in the games I've seen them. They beat Antrim, they drew with Waterford, should have won that game, of course. But all told, lost to Tipperary 223 to 24 points, and if they had a few more scoring forwards, they could have won that game too. I think he's done pretty well considering the challenges that he's had.
Yeah, I'd be the same. I think he's done fine with what he's had. Obviously Alex Considine has come in. He's been good. Keane O'Sullivan was good in the first day. Who else have we got? Your boy, the cornerback from Naomh Barrow. What's his name again? Paddy Doyle.
Oh, Paddy Doyle.
Yeah,
I was right about him, wasn't I?
Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah. I think something like a C would be fair for Dublin. C/C plus. Like, my expectations would have been quite low, I have to say, going into the league, just because of the personnel that they're missing. But I think they've done fine, I have to say.
Yeah, I'm looking at here. Chris O'Leary, he's come in. He hasn't blown me away.
Was your phone ringing there? It was Matty Kenny ringing when you were great in Dublin.
Yeah. Keane Boland, no, he didn't blow me away against Tip. I got on the ball a bit, but he's been quite good. Donald Burke.
Good to see him back, though. Like, it's just good to have him back, like,
Excellent player. Like Donald Burke, he was brilliant the last day. Fergal Whiteley, he was quiet. So was Danny Sutcliffe, but you'd expect you'll get a little bit more out of them. Then in the backs, they've still got some excellent backs. Conor Burke is obviously at centre back. Owen O'Donnell is there at full back. Dara Gray, he's been very consistent. Like, there's still plenty of talent there, but they're going to struggle up at the top end of the pitch. I don't think the forwards are there. I think C plus would be fair enough.
I think C plus is okay. Yeah, they've probably surprised me a small bit based on what my expectations were before the league started.
Okay, Antrim.
Competitive against Kilkenny. Competitive against Waterford the last day. Who they play in the middle game
Dublin
again?
Lost 28 points to 219. I was at that game. They were okay, but they were always, it was a bit like the Walsh Cup game where they went behind, they pull it back a bit, they go behind a bit more, pull it back a bit. So they never looked fully like winning the game, even though they were within striking distance.
Yeah, it's a lot of it comes down to they're playing Laois this weekend, and that will decide whether they're in a relegation playoff or not. But like, the form is quite consistent and has been for the last couple of years in Division 1 league action. Probably give them a C/C minus maybe. They're competitive with teams that are, a decent bit ahead of them in the pecking order, shall we say.
Yeah, I go with that. And then Laois, look, it's been a tough season for them so far. A couple of heavy beatings in there. I just run through the results that they've had. So they started off with that 232 to 18 points defeat in Thurles. You were there for that. Then it was a 231 to 219 loss at home to Waterford, even though they were hugely competitive for long spells and played nice, expansive hurling. Ryan Mullaney was very good. He got a couple of goals that day. And then the last day out, conceded 34 points to Kilkenny and put up 118 themselves. So all told, it's been a pretty tough few games, I think, for Laois. Not sure how many.
It was 21 points to 7 at halftime against Kilkenny. Like it was out the gate like at halftime realistically, and they made it respectable in the second half. You know.
Yeah, it's probably a D so far, really, isn't it? Realistically.
It would be, yeah. And it wouldn't be plus or minus. It might be leaning towards the minus, I'd say, to be honest with you. I have to say I don't really fancy them against Antrim this weekend either. Based on what we've seen so far, probably give them a D minus if I'm honest.
Yeah, okay. So let us know if you think we got anything right or wrong. If you're not watching it live and you're watching it back later on, post your comments and let us know. Just a reminder, we're brought to you by orgaretro.com. Use the promo code OurGame and you get 15% off. Look at this Kildare jersey, that Galway beauty here. There's a huge selection on the website. By the way, we've launched our live Club GA fundraisers. The first one is going to be on in Rowan Moore. It's coming up very soon. So if you need to raise funds for the year, it's a great place and a great way to do it. So contact us, events@ourgame.ie, events@ourgame.ie. By the way, we had a great coaching clinic last weekend just there in Pilltown, Kilkenny. We've got one coming up in Valley Rovers in Cork this coming weekend. So that's going to have Michael Fennelly, Brick Walsh and Pat Ryan. Really, really looking forward to that. I know Pat Ryan is going to be working on goal scoring. Michael Fennelly is going to have a nice presentation for us. And Brick Walsh, he's also going to be doing his segment, which is going to be really good.